Greetings everyone, I'm Joe Mayo and I'm here to talk about this new box set, John Lennon Plastic Ono Band, The Ultimate Collection, The Ultimate Mixes. And this is something that I got early, obviously, and I'm ready to talk about. This is going to be a pretty long video, I think, because there's a lot to discuss. We're talking about 6 CDs and 2 Blu-rays that are featured in here. Now, if you looked at a video that I made a few videos before this one, you'll see that I already opened up the box. I went through the book that comes with it. I went through some of the extra things that we have here, a couple of postcards and so on. And check that video out for a full evaluation of the contents of the box. But for all intents and purposes here, this is just going to be discussing the music, what's on the discs themselves. Also, I'm not going to be reviewing or talking about the individual 2 CD set that's available here. Also, I'm not talking about, down there as you can see, the vinyl LP 2-disc set. This is just strictly about the box, okay? So I have a lot of notes here. I'm going to have to be referring to my notes because when you're doing this much work, there's a lot of stuff you have to check out here and look down once in a while. So I'll do the best that I can for you. Okay, to start with, I want to say that the Plastic Ono Band, this particular album, John Lennon Plastic Ono Band, I've always felt that John sounded the best on this particular release compared to so many other releases. You know, John never really liked the sound of his own voice, you know, incredibly. So as unbelievable as it is to us, he used to always want to kind of drown it in something or have some reverb on it or layers over it. But I always thought he sounded fantastic. And this particular album, Plastic Ono Band, is actually John at his best. I've always said, in my opinion, I think John's vocals were never better than they are here on this particular record. So since it's already clear and his voice is already up front, there's not a lot of layering. It's very simple, very basic. I always felt this album didn't really need that much enhancement, you know. For this purpose, I'm going to also, maybe a little bit now and then, if necessary, refer back to the 2000 CD release that we have here, and also not so much the 2010 release. I'm not that big a fan of the 2010 release. I think I prefer the 2000 release better. You know, as again, this is very subjective. We all have different opinions, and you'll find yourself either agreeing or disagreeing with me as we go on. And later on, when you get your sets of Plastic Ono Band Ultimate Mixes, you'll be able to decide if we agree or not. All right. So, yeah, Paul Hicks, Rob Stevens, and Sam Gannon are here helming this project as far as the mixes go and such. I thought Paul Hicks did a fantastic job a few years ago with the Imagine box. That was truly a revelation, and basically kind of keeping true to Yoko Ono's desires that John's voice be brought up to the fore, and to keep the songs pretty true to the original forms. Don't really change it too much. And overall, they've done a wonderful job here. But as I say, I personally thought that this album didn't need that much playing around with John's voice to bring it to the fore. It was always pretty good and pretty clear. That would be a better project for future releases, fingers crossed, like Sometime in New York City, Mind Games, Walls and Bridges, where John's a little more below the surface, if you will. Okay, so let's see, what else can I say to start off with? Very happy to have this. Thanks again to Yoko and Sean and the team for the Lennons to enable me to have this opportunity to talk about this soon. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about CD1, and CD1 is just the proper album. I'll talk a little bit about each song as I do the rest of the box. I'm not going to necessarily talk just about every single track on every single disc, although this is probably going to go a little while. Starting off, of course, we have Mother, and of course, right away you know the track is clearer, the vocal is up front. This is one of the best revelations here on this new release. Sounds really terrific. You know, all the instrumentation, with Ringo Starr on drums and Klaus Voormann on bass, John on piano. John's screams, his guttural feelings are absolutely very crisp on this. Mother is terrific. Now, I want to mention something about the second track here, which is one of my very favorites on this particular album. It's called Hold On. It's a beautiful song, the way it was released. There was an intro change a little bit on the disc that I was talking about, the 2000 disc, where the guitar intro was slightly elongated. You heard a little bit more, a couple of more picks on the guitar there, kind of. And I actually didn't care for that version. Although I thought the disc was pretty good in 2000 overall, didn't like that extra elongated opening. I wished it was restored to the way that it had been on the 1970 record. Well, thankfully, on the new release here, the box set, it is indeed restored the way that I kind of like it. It's just the opening as it always was, not the elongated intro. Now, again, of all the tracks here, this is another one that struck me as one of the best sounding, really benefits from the crisp clarity and you might call like light feeling that Ringo gives to the drums, you know. I would say that nothing really on this version or a lot of songs did I notice for the first time, except with an exception here. Always wondered why John took a little joke in the middle of this song and he did the Sesame Street Cookie Monster and he says, cookie, okay? Now, we've always heard that, but after he says cookie the first time for decades, I heard a little mumbling of something right after he said it. I didn't know till listening to this that it actually is in fact saying the word cookie a second time. So that was one thing that I picked up on. It's the big cookie the one time and then another reflective cookie on the side. All right? I always thought it was just some kind of gibberish or mumbling, but didn't know what it was. Very happy with that track on this proper remix of the new album. I Found Out also benefits. It's a rock song. It's got that chugging, crunchy guitar sound that John does. It benefits incredible amount of ways on this. I love the instruments sounding all brought up and really powerful. You could hear everything. The guitar really stands out. And the drums on here from Ringo on the whole mix, really strong, really pounding, really thundering, and just love the enhancement. You know, again, I'm going to pause to say, on this particular album, I don't think it needed to be fixed up or remixed as much as other potential candidates for John's work might have been, because this was simple. It was always a very simple album, but highly effective because of the simplicity of it. And it already worked nice, but this only enhances it even further. All right, so far we're doing really great here on this release. Then we come up to the fourth track, Working Class Hero. Now, this is basically take 9. Take 9 was the master take that John really enjoyed and really wanted out. However, when he sang take 9 originally, as John often does, he missed some words. He missed the third verse on this take originally. He wanted to sing a line there and it got missed. So in the end, although they tried to attempt this again, even when they did another take later on, John always preferred this take. So just decided that he would just insert the missing verse. Why not? You know, the verse being, when they've tortured and scared you for 20 odd years, then they expect you to pick a career. That line. It's a great line. Too bad he missed it on take 9. But as we all know, you always were able to hear the edit. You know, it's always obvious that as the song's really flowing along nicely and pleasantly, when it gets to that line, the quality kind of just changes. Not that it goes bad, but you can actually always tell that it was maybe recorded. It sounded like it was in a different place, different time, a different room. Well, in this particular one here, now this is to my ears. I've heard some other people say they thought that the edit stands out more than ever now. They thought with this. Not so much here in the regular album version, okay? The regular album remix here, I thought, if anything, it was slightly smoothed out a little bit. If you know it's going to change, you'll hear the change anyway. I think that's one of those things, once it's ingrained into your brain, you're always going to remember it. But for me personally, I thought, hey, you know, Working Class Hero edit sounds a little smoother than it's been, so I like that. Your mileage may vary. I'm going to say that a lot too. Number 5, isolation. This is a good time, I guess, to point out, which something I haven't said yet with Working Class Hero even, or isolation now, I'll say it, that I'm not going to compare the sound of tracks from the new Plastic Ono Band box to how some of these tracks sounded when they were put on Gimme Some Truth that was released a year or two ago. Yeah, there's no point in doing it, and quite frankly, I don't notice the differences. I can't tell you whether it's the same version of isolation on this that's on Give Me Some Truth or Working Class Hero, the same thing. I don't know. But isolation, again, sounds wonderful, It depends how you're going to listen to it. I have a really good sound system in my car. I know a lot of people would shudder at that and say, well, what good is listening to this in a car? The acoustics are really wonderful, and with all the windows closed, nice and everything. And I get great sound in there. I listen to this on CD, in my car on that system, but also at home on my system at home. So 2 different ways. And isolation, again, John's voice is really powerful. It's up front. Depending on how loud the volume is, you might think you hear a little much distortion here and there, but I think on any version, if you go too loud, you may hear it. Generally speaking, on this release, the bass is up very high. In fact, I found myself wanting to take my bass and going down to 0 or even -2 or 3. That's how powerful the bass is. I generally like a lot of bass, and I usually put the bass up very high. I'll put the bass up to 9 or 10 or something like that, out of 10 out of 10, full blast. But this one, I had to go down a bit because of the vibrations and things. Okay, next we have the song Remember. I thought maybe this had the least amount of noticeable changes on it. And I don't know why I thought maybe the piano could have been a little louder. Everything up. The drums is certainly really up there in your face or in your ears, if you like. The drums are terrifically prominent. But I just thought that maybe the piano, dun, 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 I thought maybe could be a little brought up. But otherwise, so far, doing very good on this. Then we come to the song Love, beautiful version. I was glad they stuck with the version the way it was on the album, where the music kind of just quietly comes in into a crescendo, and then John starts singing, and then it kind of fades out later and that kind of thing, and then back in. There was a single edit that was done in the early 80s where it just started with the loud piano, and I think that was for radio stations, that single. But I'm glad they went with the original version here, all right? Next we have the rocker, the intense song, Well, Well, Well. Wow, another standout remix, this one. Some of them are head and shoulders above the others, and Well, Well, Well is one of those. Intense, strong vocals and bass and drums, and when John starts screaming, man, it's like, wow, it just goes right through your skull, which is the way it should, because his vocals are so up with the yells at the end when he goes crazy. Next track, Look at Me. Look at Me. Sometimes I say it's my favorite song on the album, and you might say that's surprising because Look at Me is not really that complicated or anything. It's simple but beautiful and so heartfelt. Now, here's a criticism that I would make. My first time during this run, I was a little disappointed, I'll tell you the truth, if I'm to be honest, which is what I'm trying to do here in this review. And I made sure by comparing it to the 2000 CD that I wasn't mistaken. But, in this song, there's some kind of phasing going on with John's voice, multi-track. His voice is more than once there, and it's kind of phased, for lack of a better word. I thought that the 2000 CD was much better on this. I did a comparison because, and this is all subjective, your mileage may vary, as I say, but for me, I just thought there was something, when listening to this really loud as I enjoyed, maybe softly is better, but listening to it loudly as I heard this phasing. It really was becoming a problem. It really was calling attention to itself. I didn't know whether to say the phasing or the tape echo, tape hiss, or something under there. Whatever it was, for me, I just thought, just called attention to itself and was a little bit too intrusive on the brand new version. As I say, just my opinion. So that was kind of the only disappointment on the entire proper album remix. I don't know, maybe it's my system, maybe it's just my ears, as everybody hears things differently, everybody has preferences. But yeah, I think that I kind of preferred it on, say, the 2000 version. Okay, then we come to the classic song God, and we've already heard this sounding really great on Give Me Some Truth. Again, don't know if it's the exact same master, but it's similar. Now, you're not used to hearing John's vocals so up front on this. And it's funny in a way, because on the original release, John's voice, while always wonderful and strong, was kind of subdued a little bit in the sense of like being a slightly distant. Not very far off, but a little bit distant. Now we get to hear John right there in your face, and you can really hear very clearly the first line, God is a concept by which we measure our pain. And of course, the word concept. When I was a kid, you almost couldn't make out the word concept. God is a something. And you had to look at the lyric sheet, or I did when I was younger, and I found out what he had been singing. Concept. But it's a weird thing, because either one of the versions, either the brand new version here or the older version, the standard version, is acceptable with me. I think the new version sounds so amazing with John being right up there and in the fore. However, I think it kind of also, when you're in a different mood, loses something, because there was a little bit something about hearing him sound just slightly like, I don't know, slightly off or out there or something like that. I kind of miss that listening to this, but then again, it's what I'm used to. I'm used to hearing it the other way for, well, not quite 50 years in my case, but, 44, 45 years, something like that, as long as I've been listening to the album. So it's just a matter, really, of being accustomed to it. It's very good, the new mix of that. Very good. It's just that I'm used to it the other way. And that's what it is. If you're just coming into it, you might actually prefer it this way. I don't know. It's not a deal breaker. I still enjoy the new version as well. And then, of course, tagged at the end, as always, is the My Mummy's Dead track, which is actually John singing just on a cassette tape, and there's nothing else really that exists of it, but that was part of the effect. It's John sounding very stark and almost cryptic, and like from beyond or from the grave, to talk about his feelings and stunned emotions about his mother being dead. It's very short, and it's always been very effective and creepy to me at the end. And really, it's no different from the way it's always sounded, and quite frankly, it shouldn't be any different. It shouldn't sound any different. That does the job. Also put on at the end of this CD are the 3 singles from the era. We have Give Peace a Chance, Cold Turkey, and Instant Karma. Out of those 3, and again, I don't do any comparison to the Give Me Some Truth versions, I think the best is Cold Turkey. Cold Turkey just has everything sounding good. The guitars, bass, drums, John's vocals are really, really excellent, better than the way it was before. And Give Peace a Chance, I think even on that track, which Give Peace a Chance, the record has never been a favorite of mine, I'll tell you the truth. And I'll be mentioning that a few more times during this video. You'll hear what I got to say about it later. But if anything, this single, Give Peace a Chance, is a little bit of improvement. John's voice might be slightly up a little bit. He was always really kind of in the, buried a little bit, I thought, on the single originally. So that's it for disc 1. Okay, now for disc 2. Disc 2 is the Outtakes disc, and I love outtakes. I love any alternate versions of anything. It's always interesting to me as a fan and a listener, I love hearing different things. I won't discuss each and every song here, because some of them are kind of similar to the finished product in a way, and some different. I'll just have some notes here, things I noticed on this disc. I Found Out, for example, take 1. On take 1, there's that added coda, screaming Yoko, Yoko, Yoko in I Found Out, that I think maybe was going to be part of the song originally. Eventually, John decided to drop that. But it's nice to hear it tried out on this particular take 1. Now, for me, the most interesting outtakes on this disc concern not the album tracks, but the 3 bonus songs. We start with Give Peace a Chance, take 2. Boy, I tell you, this is recorded at the Queen Elizabeth Hotel in Montreal, Canada. And as I said earlier, I never was a big fan of Give Peace a Chance. Always thought it was a great slogan, but not much of a catchy record. However, this one really was a lot more fun. It was fun, spontaneous. John really up front because it sounds like you're actually live in the room with them, whereas the record of Give Peace a Chance sounded more like a record. This sounded like you're really right in there with the room with everybody singing along with them in the bedroom for the bed-in. And I like that you can hear Yoko's vocals. John, as always, shouts a lot of encouragements to the group and the people that are in the bedroom and singing along with them. And he's saying things like, "Why don't you try it?" And he's singing, "Don't get tired." And he says, "Wake up back there." And then I like one moment he says, "They won't ban this one," in between everybody chanting Give Peace a Chance. So that's a lot of fun. Cold Turkey, Take One. Okay, now, write this down. To me, Cold Turkey, Take One is a real gem. This is the best thing on the set, almost. One of the best things on the entire set. On disc 2, Cold Turkey, Take One. It's an early version, but it's got the added guitar parts to it where, Eric Clapton's playing and John Lennon, they're playing, and you hear different approaches here. Not quite sure exactly how the guitar bits are going to work out just yet. There's a little bit excess guitar on here. Trying to figure out the best approach, and the guitar is kind of like echoing the phrases, and very interesting. I really like Cold Turkey. Then we go to Instant Karma, Take 5, and this is really, really an exciting take. It's similar sounding to the Finnish version, but John's lyrics are all over the place. John, again, singing verses here that belong down there, and ones here putting up there, and mixing verses up. Singing some things about one that's supposed to go in another verse, words from here and there. So, but the sound quality is great, and really, really good take on that, except for the words are not perfect yet. Sounds a lot like the Finnish version, but George Harrison's also listed for this track as being on guitar for this version of Instant Karma, and sadly, though, all good things have to be compromised, it seems, and the take ends abruptly, unfortunately. Okay, now we have CD 3, and this is the Elements mixes. And a few notes here that I took. First, we have Mother, with John's vocal only, and that's just amazing to hear, because this is the Primal Scream album. This is John and Yoko going to Arthur Janov's Institute, where he was famous for the Primal Scream, which basically you let a lot of your feelings that have been pent up in you since childhood, that cause a lot of pain in your adult life, let them out by screaming. And there's a lot of screaming on this album, in Well, 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 for example. And here in the song Mother, he screams about his mother leaving and his father leaving. So it's kind of sad, but it's amazing when you just hear John's primal vocal, the pain coming through there, without anything else. No instrumentation, just isolated vocal. And I didn't think I really was going to care to hear it. I said, I'm not really a big fan of just hearing a vocal. I'm usually not much for elements in general, here's a track without the bass. Here's a track missing the violin. Here's a track just with the piano. But this was interesting, particularly because of John's voice and the intention of the pain and the way he has to scream for his parents. Really emotional. Now we're going to go to, let's see, Hold On. You have 4 vocals by John, it sounds here, uses his voice 4 times on this take of Hold On in the mixes. You got the drums and bass are muted. You don't hear them. And a little too much on the voice for me, I think, with Hold On. I think they got it right with maybe 2 voices. 1 or 2 is fine. 4, a bit much. But interesting to hear this. Then we have I Found Out. This is an extended version of the main take, but it goes on longer. I've heard some of these on the Lost Lennon tapes before. I think I've heard this one before. Some of these tracks on here are brand new. Some of them we've heard before on shows like the Lost Lennon tapes. This version here, in addition to being longer, also adds a previously unused conga overdub with the congas, which I think was a good move in the ultimate mix to take them out for the record. Then we have, let's see, Working Class Hero, Take 9. Now, this is good because I talked earlier about Take 9 version, how John did a great master of this and loved it, but he forgot to sing the third verse. Here, on the Elements mixes, you have the unedited master take, which is missing the third verse. So they include that as well. All right. It's the release version, actually, except for the line, when they've tortured and scared you for 20 odd years, then they expect you to pick a career. All right. So moving on here, we'll talk about Isolation. Isolation is a muted piano version, vocals with drums and bass and a different organ track. And then we have another extended edit, this time with a longer version of the song Remember. Next up, we have a version of Look at Me that I like, as you know, with a single vocal. Just John without having it, dubbed over a couple of times over. And I'll also comment on God. It's the same as the master, but it has an original guide vocal on it. Very interesting disc 3 Elements mixes. Okay, then we move over to CD number 4, and this is called the Raw Studio Mixes. Kind of stripped down, you'd say. This is like the versions of the songs as we kind of know them, but there's some extra stuff sometimes at the beginning and at the end, and it's more bare. And in the enclosed book that comes with this, Rob Stevens tells us how much he loved this album when he was a kid, and he wore out 3 copies and drove his parents nuts, apparently, by playing this so much. And this was a project he's personally honored to do, and it shows. So you have a stripped-down version of the album without the bells and whistles, basically. And we have, like, Mother, and I love how it continues on this version past the fade-out that we're used to, and it has a more complete ending. And I thought this complete ending on this Raw Studios Mixes disc was a lot more effective, actually, than the version released. It would have been very interesting had they put the album out with this full ending. I liked it. Then we have I Found Out. Same kind of deal, where after the fade out, as we know it on the record after all these years, this goes off on a wild tangent and just goes crazy, jamming a bit and stuff, and I like that. Isolation, it's interesting because we actually get to hear John inhaling and exhaling his breath on this. It's so intricate and detailed. Then we have Remember, which has a long ending to it. And they already knew going into this that it wasn't going to be included on the album. So the long ending, I think, was just having some fun, but wasn't going to be used. And on the version of Love we have here, John chats along with Phil Spector at the end of it. You hear a little bit of Phil coming in there, and that's an interesting little moment. Then we have Look at Me, single vocal, again, with more guitar noodling at the end. It's effective the way it is on the record, but I like the single vocal too. And the guitar extra playing at the end is fun. Like that. Okay, and next I'll comment on the singles again. I do a lot of that. Once again, give Peace a Chance. This is much cleaner than the single, this version on the Raw Studio Mixes. Better. It's the same version that we have on the 45, but there's none of that loud thumping that I really don't care for on the record. And John's vocal much louder, and again, you feel more live and present, like you're in the studio with them, or in this case the hotel room, because that's where it's recorded in Montreal, Canada, in the hotel. But it doesn't sound like a more muted and subdued kind of record. This is very much present. All right. And now I got to really go on about Instant Karma on this one. This is a great despectorized version. A lot of people looking for despectorized stuff. I'm a fan of Phil Spector's work, but once in a while it's good to have it kind of bare bones. So you got John's very, very clear vocal. Again, this is the same version that we're used to on the record, the single of Instant Karma. But to hear John so clear and without the Spector echo or reverb is very fascinating. And the drumming is just so loud and crisp. All the instrumentation sounds like hearing it new for the first time, like you're right there with them. Really good. And there's no fade out, on Instant Karma. It just goes on. And what's interesting is at the very end, when it finally stops, when the chorus finally stops, John's voice sounds very, very hoarse. And you hear him say, "Just check and see if we got it." That's a wonderful extra touch to it. Moving on now to CD number 5, which I am happy to talk about. This is a disc I'll play often, probably the most. Other than the proper album, this is the disc I like the best. It's disc 5, the Evolution mixes. We get all sorts of improvisation, teamwork, talking, chattering between tracks, trying to work on it. What this does is it kind of traces the progress of each song, from like the demos to early takes to final mixes, and it documents the creative journey of every song. So it's especially wonderful to hear Ringo a lot on here vocally. You hear Ringo and John talking, laughing, joking around, and they're trying to develop each song, and they're kind of like just having a good time making this album, which is basically a kind of serious and depressing kind of record overall, right? But you wouldn't know that from listening to these discussions and personal laughs here and there. And it's fun hearing swearing sometimes on here. Sometimes swearing is frustration. John is frustrated, and there's some playful cussing going on, guys being guys, that kind of thing. And yeah, so I love this. And we'll start out talking about Mother. John's discussing at the beginning to Ringo about wanting to put the church bells at the beginning. And yeah, it's just great hearing, Ringo, John, Klaus sometimes attempting to nail down these songs. Hold On. John says, I love this bit. When he's doing the song Hold On, John says to Yoko, who's in the control room, "Do you think we're going too slow, Yoko?" And Yoko in the control room assures him, "No, it's beautiful." And I'm telling you, I love that. A lot of people think Yoko has nothing to do with this stuff, but you can hear by listening to this that she's a big influence on John, also creatively in the studio as much as a lover, Then we go to Working Class Hero, and I like at one moment during Working Class Hero and the Evolution mixes, John says, "We'll have to do it like Blackbird," he says. And in another part, he's kind of impulsively tapping his foot. And somebody says, you gotta stop doing that. And he says, "I can't help that." He says, "I'll have to take my shoe off." So he takes his shoe off. He says, gonna have to have a little tapping. You can't have none. Stuff like that I love. That's the stuff that it turns me on as a fan, And I love being like a fly on the wall and hearing some of this intimate discussion. Now in Isolation, once again, we learn how much Yoko is very important to John in giving her input and encouragement. John really trusted her and relied on her opinions, I thought it was kind of interesting in this track, Isolation, that I hear John doing the line, "I don't expect you to understand after you've caused so much pain." He changed it. He originally sang it as I don't expect you to understand after I've caused so much pain, That's something I didn't expect. And, we'll go to Remember next. Now, in the song Remember, George Harrison arrives in the studio. It was October the 9th, John's 30th birthday. And George arrives and just to wish John a happy birthday. But you hear George Harrison's voice a little bit. But unfortunately, isn't this so frustrating when this happens? The tape was stopped. So you don't get to hear the whole discussion. But at least we know George came by to wish a happy B-Day to his friend Lennon. Okay, then Well, the main thing I can say about this on the Evolution mix is Well has some maniacal Ringo drumming, out of control, out of his head. I love hearing Ringo go loose like that. Ringo is fantastic, pounding those skins and cymbals and just crashing away on the Evolution mix of Well. Then we come to Look at Me. Look at Me. I like how John talks about the finger-picking approach that he does on that, which I love on that song. That's why Look at Me is one of my favorite. He mentions the song Julia from the Beatles days. He says he hasn't used the finger-picking approach in years, he says. Oh, and then he changes, 6 months anyway. He says he used it on Julia. He notes that he used it. And he says he'd need a week to practice on it to get it. But that's really a fun version. Okay, now The one thing I was wondering about is, it's kind of a mystery to me. In the book that comes with this, with the evolution mixes, it says there's descriptions in there of the singles Give Peace a Chance, Cold Turkey, and Instant Karma, yet the CD5 only has the album. It's album only. So the book made it sound interesting, especially Instant Karma, where they say that in detail how it says John's voice can be heard getting increasingly hoarse as the session progresses, and has almost lost his voice by the time the choir overdubs are completed. Now, I don't know where this is. It's not on the Evolution disc. I don't know if it exists, but it was in the book, written out as if it was going to be included or is included. But as I already noted earlier, if you were paying attention, I did say on one of the other takes that we heard, you got to hear John at the end with a scratchy, hoarse voice anyway. All right, let's go on to disc number 6. Now, I've heard a lot of these demos before. I'm sure a lot of you have too if you're diehard Lennon fans, from the Lost Lennon tapes. Some of them are new to me, and some of them I'd heard before. Okay? One of the ones that I'd heard before was I Found Out, which is really a great primitive version with different words. You know, it's a home tape that John does, and I love the sound of his voice on there, in addition to the different words he uses. These are basically home tape recordings recorded in the summer of 1970 in Los Angeles, while they were attending Arthur Janoff's Primal Scream Institute. You know, you have stuff like Mother, I Found Out, Love, Well, 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 Look at Me and God, Which is Wonderful, and My Mummy's Dead, all on home tape recordings. And then for some of these, early studio rehearsals or outtakes have been used instead, even though they're labeled demos, you know. And in some cases, we have like Isolation and Remember, both recorded in October of 70 in EMI Studio 3. We have Hold On, Take 7, an early relaxed version, featuring John, Ringo, Klaus Vormann. That was on September 30th of 70 on Studio 3. Working Class Hero, Take 11. Another attempt to improve, quotes, the master Take 9 that we talked about earlier. It's a good version, you know, but 9 was deemed better still, you know. So, and then Give Peace a Chance. Again, I never thought going into this you'd hear me talk about Give Peace a Chance, a song which I'm lukewarm about. So much freaking out about it now. I never thought going in that I would. This version here on the demo is a very fun, again, spontaneous version. This one is very early, and it's captured in the Bahamas. They recorded it in the Bahamas just before John and Yoko left for their Montreal bed-in Canada, you know. So just a really good time, and, you know, just, you know, not serious. And then we have Cold Turkey demos, you know, early home tape recording made by John with his guitar overdubbed and a backing vocal added during the choruses. Now, we've heard this kind of thing before, again, on the Lost Lennon tapes, when John's voice kind of like reverberates as he's singing Cold Turkey. Yeah, always been fun. It was great to get that back in 1988, those versions. Instant Karma. Okay, Instant Karma here is the very first take from the session on January 27th, 1970, EMI Studio 3. And it's different from all other takes, different instrumentation, very interesting and enjoyable, very much so. Okay, now, also on disc 6, we have jams. Now, this is the part where I'm going to snooze a little bit, because quite frankly, I'll tell you folks, honestly, I've never been a big fan of jamming. Some jams can produce some interesting moments. This is a lot of the jamming that goes on here. Again, my personal feeling, it's not something I'm going to return to. It's interesting to have them if you're a completist and you want to have all these things, okay. But impromptu jamming is not my thing, unless it sounds somewhat structured or sounds like something. You get to hear a goofing around here. So just some notes here. You get a few seconds here, or a minute, of songs like Johnny Be Good, Ain't That a Shame, Glad All Over, Send Me Some Lovin', Get Back, I've Got a Feeling, Honey Don't, Matchbox. You even get a kind of humorous Elvis parody where John puts on a pseudo Elvis voice for Don't Be Cruel, Hound Dog, Mystery Train, and You're So Square, Baby I Don't Care. But, you know, as I say, good to have everything, but not a personal favorite of me. Let me know what you think when you get it. Most interesting stuff on the jams, for me were Lost John and a fun version of It'll Be Me, and another version of Don't Worry Kyoko on the jams, which I thought was funny. It's just not my thing. I mean, whereas I said I love the Evolution mixes, and that's something I'm going to be playing a lot, probably the most disc other than the album. This one I won't be going back to much. All a matter of personal taste and completely subjective. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Blu-rays. There are 2 Blu-rays in here. Now, I have a Blu-ray player that a lot of times will not accept audio Blu-rays. Luckily for me, I got lucky, and both of the Blu-rays went in this time. I was able to listen to them. I don't have the equipment, though, to listen to 5.1 sound accurately. I mean, I don't have enough speakers and things like that. It's not giving me the best equipment for Dolby Atmos and stuff like that, I don't think. However, it already sounded great to me just listening. And I'll be honest with you, I listened to the Blu-rays just on my big widescreen 55-inch Samsung TV, and just from the TV speakers it sounded amazing, so I can imagine what it sounds like on a proper system. But I'm going to talk now somewhat about the Blu-ray features. First of all, the Blu-ray has a wonderful menu, which is a lot of fun. There's an image that pops up on the Blu-rays. You get this image here, well, minus John and Yoko. It's just the image without them of, the woods, and you hear birds chirping, and it's a very peaceful effect. I like the visuals on here, so kudos to the person who designed the menu. I like that a lot. Very good menu, and you can select what you want. Now, the Blu-rays, well, I'm not going to talk too much about all the stuff we talked about already. It has the album and all that, and it's sounding fantastic. I'm going to talk about Blu-ray 2. Now, Blu-ray 2 has Yoko Ono, Plastic Ono Band on it, okay? And we're talking about actual live sessions mix. So this is the performances from Yoko Ono, Plastic Ono Band in full with no edits. Now, first thing I say is, even though it's great to have it on a Blu-ray, why didn't they put this on the CD? All right, no big deal, we have it. That's the main thing. But it would have been nice on a CD so I don't have to go through the Blu-ray machine and everything. But let me tell you about Yoko for people who don't know my feelings about Yoko. I'm always defending Yoko. Anybody who knows me, watches my channel, knows that I'm a Yoko fan, and I am an unabashed Yoko supporter. But even I'm not always wild about hearing Yoko tracks when all she does is do the screaming and whining and caterwauling and things like that. I'm very much a fan of Yoko songs where she sings, and I have a nice collection of albums. I like Yoko singing. I enjoy her voice on a lot of tracks. And those are the tracks I like by Yoko. I like some of the screaming and noises Yoko makes when she puts them on songs that otherwise have singing on it. In other words, I love it on Kiss Kiss Kiss. I love it on We're All Water. And I love it at the end of I'm Moving On Double Fantasy. Those moments where she just goes off for a little while, I like that. But it's hard to sustain a full album of this. Nevertheless, I did listen to over 90 minutes of this to get ready. And of course, what really stands out is the fact that it's great musicianship on here. Oh, wow. It's great hearing Ringo chattering with John in the studio, and Ringo playing real strong drums on here. And the first song, Why, has some really cool jamming. I said earlier I don't like jams, but to hear John on the electric slide guitar and Ringo going crazy and insane on the drums with Klaus Bormann on bass, the first 10 minutes is amazing. It goes on for 10 minutes on the song Why. And then after that, Yoko joins in and she does her thing, and for a while it's good, but after a while it gets to be a little bit much for me, as I mentioned. And I want to say I like at the end of the version of Why on here, you hear John excitedly asking engineers Phil McDonald and Andy Stevens, "Were you getting that?" John, absolutely Yoko's biggest fan. All right, then the second track, Why Not, starts out bluesy, very bluesy track. And at first, John stops Yoko. Yoko is singing for a while and, making her sounds. And John says, hey, says, "Your voice is too loud in the earphones now." And then Yoko's very disappointed. I felt sorry for her. She goes, "Oh, you stopped it at a very nice part." like that. And I really felt so. So they resume, and as it sounds on the finished album, why not? But John at one point had said, "Oh, we weren't on, were we?" He didn't realize. Okay, there are 3 improvisations which weren't included on the released version of Yoko Ono Plastic Ono Band. They are "Life," "Ome no Okawa," and "I Lost Myself Somewhere in the Sky." So yeah, pretty intense to listen to, at least instrumentally if you're not really into it. But it is an avant-garde curiosity, and I imagine at the time nothing like this really had been heard to this degree, especially not in with John and Ringo are concerned and playing on. Then also we have the 3 B-sides of Yoko's. We have the B-side of Give Peace a Chance called Remember Love. Now this is the Yoko stuff I love Remember Love. It's a real sweet song where she sings on it, and recorded during the Montreal, Canada bed-in. And then we have the famous Don't Worry Kyoko, Mummy's Only Looking for a Hand in the Snow. An edited version of this was the B-side of Cold Turkey, but this is the full version. And then finally we have Yoko's song Who Has Seen the Wind, the B-side of Instant Karma, and also enjoyable on here. Yeah, so to end this with, I will say my last feelings on this. This is quite an undertaking. It was a lot to go through all this. I'm sorry it went on so long, but I wanted to cover as much as I could. Yeah, I wanted to be sure to talk about what I loved on here, and a few little things that I was not as crazy about. But overall, this is an essential set, folks. This is essential, a treasure for those who enjoy this album, John Lennon Plastic Ono Band, and also, of course, a treasure and an essential pickup for just casual fans of John Lennon, period. I mean, this is great stuff. It's great to have everything here. Everybody will be individually interested in this or that, a highlight or not. I told you what I thought were my highlights and not so highlights for me personally. But to have everything like this concise onto one very compact box is really, really fantastic. And I thank everybody involved for such a great product. In closing, I would like to once again thank Yoko, Sean, and the whole Lennon team. And I truly hope we get to enjoy all of John's remaining albums with such luxurious and exhaustive box sets like this one. I hope it's not too much to ask. Sometime in New York City, possibly in 2022. And Walls and Bridges, Mind Games, Rock and Roll, Double Fantasy, etc. Everybody, this has been my pleasure. And I hope you'll pick this up and enjoy yourselves. Take care.